When you first experience the vast, never-ending feeling of open-world freedom in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it can feel a bit overwhelming to say the least. This video is here to help guide you in the right direction to get your Henry back on his feet and ready to take on medieval Bohemia with confidence. Ain't that right, Henry?
We look like a couple of beggars and we stink even worse.
The first thing you should do in this game is do whatever you want, in whatever order that you want. I wanted to preface with that as I did get great enjoyment in my own game out of not knowing what the heck to do and being forced to figure things out on my own. With that said, you probably don't mind some tips if you clicked on this video, so let's do it. 2 to 3 hours into the game is when most players will reach the official open world. And after you get out of the pillory in the town of Troskovitz, the first thing every player should consider doing is speaking to this lady right here. But actually, let's make a pro move here first and go into our inventories and equip whatever clothes you have available and your torch and weapon if you have those as well. Running around half naked is pretty funny and it gets some funny reactions out of NPCs, but they don't always like it too much. Now go ahead and look directly to the right and head through the entrance to the local tavern. And to the left of the tavern's main door, right here you can give yourself a wash in this tub of water. A less stinky and dirty Henry tends to equate to getting better interactions out of NPCs. Now head back out to the main road and speak to Bara the beggar. She may have moved down the road or maybe even across the street by now, but she should still be there somewhere. When you first spawned in, Bara should have called out to you to come speak with her, but the game doesn't really make it that clear just how important it is to actually speak with her, so it's pretty easy to ignore or miss. Taking your time with Bara's dialogue will not only grant you a very important side quest, but she'll also give you hints as to what you should be doing right now before you head out and take on quests. Your Henry right now is pretty much a fish out of water as he is poor and in unknown territory. Go ahead and exhaust a few dialogue options with her, and eventually you'll see this golden star option, which will give you a side quest from her called combat training. This is a very, very important side quest, but we'll come back to it later in the video as right now we need to take care of some basic necessities first. After picking up the combat training side quest, click on the help me dialogue option. Bara will reveal to you 4 important tasks here that you should consider focusing on right now. These are not official quests, nor will they show up in your journal, so take note here or just rewatch this video. Bara also offers a dialogue option to give you some tips on the main quest of the game, and go ahead and exhaust that dialogue as well. So we need to find something to wear, we need money, we need a horse, and need a place to sleep. If you exhaust all of these options here, you should walk away from Bara with likely some vague tips. She'll give you 5 groschen to buy lockpicks if you need some, or you can buy something else, even though most things are more expensive than that. But she should also give you a free lockpick. For the what to wear dialogue, there's actually a skill check for each option here, but don't worry if you fail, you should still get that free lockpick, and I have better tips than Bara has anyways. Let's start off with shelter, and I'm going to add food to that as well. A really quick way to get yourself some free, fresh food right off the bat is by getting some honey. Head southwest from the pillory, and right about here on your map, you'll find plenty of free honey. If you can get 5 to 10 or so, I think that's a really great start, and you won't have to worry about food for a while. Honey is also quite filling, which is nice. You don't have to eat as much to satisfy your hunger. Keep in mind though, like with almost everything that I talk about in this video, there's plenty of other ways to do things, such as sneaking into the tavern and stealing food, but this honey right here is super easy and convenient for the start of the game. When your Henry gets hungry, you'll see the hunger icon at the bottom right of your screen. 1 honey should be enough here to make your hunger go away, and don't eat any more after the symbol has gone away, as you'll likely gain the overeaten negative stamina debuff. I also recommend players to go ahead and run up to all of the buildings in Troskovitz right now, even run into the yards, as when you get close enough to a shop or an important location, or even things like sharpening wheels, alchemy benches, and laundry stations, your map will fill out with these markers representing those locations, which will make it much easier to find them when you need them. Please note that it seems like most shops don't open until 10 a.m., and you can go ahead and skip time by simply hitting T on mouse and keyboard. Let's find a place to sleep though. You probably don't need sleep at this exact moment, but it's best at least to know where you can sleep, so when you do get tired, which will be indicated by this bed icon, you'll know where to go and you'll not end up dying on your search for a bed. It's very important to note that sleeping in a bed that is not yours, or one that you're not paying for, does not save the game. It does, however, still count as sleep for the purposes of Henry not being tired. Innkeeper Betty at the tavern probably won't offer most of you a place for you to sleep for at least a couple days in game, as she's mad at you for the fight that you got in earlier. And you're also poor, so you can't really afford anything anyways, so here's a much, much better solution. We're going to head north to the town of Takov, which should actually be marked on your map if you're tracking the game's main quest, Wedding Crashers. In Takov, you can get your own room that comes with a bed that will save the game when you sleep, and it also comes with a storage chest. All of this is for free. All you have to do is talk to the blacksmith in Takov, which will progress a little bit of the Wedding Crashers main quest. Don't worry about that, though. We're not really focusing on that. And he'll teach you blacksmithing by having you craft a hunting sword, and then he'll give you the room. Other beds that you can find in the Troskovitz area that I was able to sleep in without much trouble, but of course these are beds that don't save the game. You can find beds at camps when you're out and about, and there's a camp right here southwest of town. And also in the town of Troskovitz itself, there's a bed in a shed right here behind the general goods building, and you can usually actually sleep in the tavern hay pile without getting caught, as it's hidden behind a wagon. Before you head out to Takov, though, for the real bed, let's knock out two birds with one stone. If you walk down the main street of Troskovitz heading west and jump the fence right about here and walk over into this gentleman's little work shed, you will see a Skalitz axe on the table. You don't have to sneak in here, nor will the axe count as stolen goods. At least it doesn't in my review copy, and this axe sells for a lot of groschen to the blacksmith. Since the axe's strength and agility requirements are higher than what you'll have at this time, this is a great sell. After you get the axe, it's time to head to Takov, and if you want the journey to be a little bit quicker, you can always Grand Theft Auto a horse, but note that you can get in trouble for doing this if somebody sees you, and the horse will not be officially yours. Therefore, when you dismount, it will start heading back to the farm that you took it from. After you talk to the blacksmith and do all that and get your room, go ahead and sell the axe and any other weapons that you'll have on you that you don't need. And you're now probably miles ahead of what most other players will be at this point that don't follow this guide. Not that that's a win or anything, but you're killing it. The axe sells for 120 groschen, I believe, which is actually a ton of groschen for a starting player, and it's nearly enough for something very special that we'll need it for here soon. Time to go back to Troskovitz, though, and do note that when you discover a town, fast travel to that town becomes available to you in the future. You can fast travel by clicking the blue shield icon on your map and then look at the bottom left of your screen. Back in Troskovitz, it's time to get us the ability to save the game without having to always go back to our bed in Takov, and we also need a little more money. The alchemy bench in Troskovitz can be found right next to the main road across from where the general goods vendor is. When you first walk into the shed, look to your right and make sure to pick up this free recipe book on the shelf right here. And then open up your inventory, go to books, and click learn on both the Artemisia recipe and the Savior Schnapps recipe. We're going to focus on making at least a few Savior Schnapps right now, as having these potions available in your inventory allows you to manually save the game. To make Savior Schnapps, you'll need belladonna and nettle. Nettle is super easy to find as it's pretty much everywhere, but if you head south out of the shed, along this fence right here near the compost pile, you can find plenty of nettle. Belladonna can be a little bit trickier to find, but you should be able to find two in between the general goods vendor building and the town hall building. And there's also a whole patch of it to the southwest of town. If you just follow this main road down a little bit, it'll be right about here on your map. After you've obtained your ingredients, go right back to the alchemy bench so your herbs don't lose their freshness. And I would say craft at least 5 of these. Keep in mind that you'll make more than 1 in a single brew if you do it well. Now you can save your game manually, which I would recommend doing at least somewhat often when you're out doing open world activities, as there won't be any autosaves for that. Save right now so you don't have to redo all the crafting. But since we're here at the alchemy bench and you've learned the basics of it, we might as well make some money. If you end up getting a perk or two in alchemy, which you likely will, I would recommend taking the potion seller perk right here to sell potions for 30% more, and also the secret of matter perk, which will give you 1 extra potion every time you successfully brew a potion. Both are nice for farming grochen. This doesn't mean that you're going to focus on alchemy from here on out, just right now to get yourself some money, as it's really, really convenient. I would recommend making some chamomile decoctions, which you would have learned in the prologue from Bojena, as the ingredients are very, very easy to find for this decoction, and it's actually a really, really quick brewing process. It's like half the time from a lot of the other potions. You can find a patch of sage and chamomile if you head straight out of the alchemy shed. Right here, it says straight out, there's a bunch of it, and you can also find plenty of sage in this area right here on the map near this V in the road, and also more chamomile along the garden fence right here near the alchemy shed. If you just do 3 sessions here of crafting some chamomile decoctions and then sell those potions to the alchemy vendor in the house, which is near the shed, this should put you over the 150 groschen level, which is exactly what we need for a horse. There's of course a ton of other ways to get groschen as well, such as sneaking around town and pickpocketing and lockpicking chests, but I find alchemy as the easiest and quickest way at the very, very start of the game when your skills and everything are not really the greatest. If you're willing to put in a little more effort into making some more potions or farming some groschen somehow, head to the general goods vendor and get yourself a belt and also a pouch if you don't have either of these gear items. A first tier belt right here allows you to equip a secondary weapon, and the first tier pouch gives you a hotkey slot to put healing potions on or even food so you can quickly access those. You also probably want to buy a few lockpicks from this guy as well. Just don't put yourself under 150 groschen, or if you do, make some more potions and get yourself back to 150. So now we have a bed, we have food, we have save potions, and you should have at least 150 groschen. It is now time to get our horse. If you paid attention to Bara the beggar earlier, she would have told you that there is a stud farm to the southeast of Troskovitz, and this is Samin. And you can actually see it in the distance when looking southwest from Troskovitz. I actually like to steal a horse to get there, as it goes by much quicker and it's kind of fun stealing horses. When you arrive at Samin, go through the front arch right here and out the back, and then you arrive at the horse vendor. The only horse you can likely afford here is Pebbles, the best horse in the game, of course. Not really stats-wise, but everybody loves Pebbles. Pebbles is Henry's horse from the first game, so he's great. You might actually be able to get Pebbles for way cheaper than 150, or possibly even for free if you can pass one of these dialogue skill checks right here. But at the start of the game, I think most people are not going to pass those. Do note that in my early review copy of the game, I tried stealing Pebbles thinking that he would recognize me as his master and not leave, but he continued to just head back towards the farm anytime I dismounted, so keep that in mind. So now you have your own horse, and pressing X will call Pebbles to you. If you want to take a quick trot through the Samin village, which is very close to this farmstead right here, to unlock the map icons for that town, go ahead, but we're going to head back to Troskovitz now. I think you can even find a better pouch here from one of the vendors. Now it's time to possibly get yourself some better clothes if that's something that you care about, but we definitely need to find at least some armor soon, and also maybe a better weapon or even a secondary weapon. The reason why I saved this part for after obtaining Pebbles is because when you're out in the world, such as on your journey to Samin to get Pebbles, there's a chance that you may come across some bandits, and bandits offer a great opportunity to get some armor and weapons without, pissing everybody off from wearing stolen goods or fighting guards, etc. But do keep in mind that if you are okay with killing someone or knocking someone out, you could take their stuff. It's much less risky doing it to an NPC that's outside of a town. So in the event that things don't go as planned, an entire town won't be alerted. But I also want to show you where you can find a pretty nice starting sword here if you're into swords. And this is in Troskovitz, in the southwest section, in this barn building right here. If you could sneak up to the second level of this barn and go all the way to the back, you could find yourself a military sword on the table. You of course can also buy some weapons. The carpenter sells bows and crossbows. Just don't forget to buy the appropriate ammunition. And he also sells shields, polearms, and an axe. But the butcher actually sells a better axe that's more suited for combat. Also, don't forget that you can buy melee weapons from the blacksmith in Takov, and you'll have the best selection by far, which includes longswords for those of you that want to use two-handed swords. This won't come cheap though. For armor, it's a bit trickier as there's no armor smith vendor in Troskovitz, but the tailor does sell some gambesons and pour points. Am I pronouncing that right? And these are combat shirts that will give you some okay starting poor boy stab, slash, and defense numbers. You can buy a cheap poor point for 43 groschen here, which will at least get you started and give you some protection. You can of course buy a bunch of clothes from this guy as well if you want to buy more stealth related items, get darker clothes with less noise values, and you can buy yourself some nobility clothing if you're really going after that charismatic speech type build. It's just not going to be cheap. And you'll likely come across some of this stuff, you know, as you head out into the open world anyways. I do want to say here though, for folks not afraid to engage in the criminal arts though, if you can find a way into the tailor's shop, probably want to do it at nighttime, you can get a ton of stuff for free. He even keeps 320 groschen in his shop chest, plus a ton of those clothing items that he was selling. You can go about this in a few different ways here. You can try to lockpick the front door at nighttime, but it's not an easy lock. In fact, I think most won't be able to do it if you've not trained any lockpicking at this point or found yourself a lockpicking potion. You can take a little bit riskier of a path here and try to pickpocket him in his own store and grab the keys and then come back at nighttime. You can get even more risky and try stealth knocking him out and then taking all of his stuff. Or you can, of course, just kill him and take everything. Keep in mind, this guy does offer repairs for clothing-related items and armor, but you can also do that on your own if you have tailor kits. And speaking of repairs, you guys are probably going to have the armor broken symbol. And like I said here, you can go to the tailor to repair your clothing-based items, or the blacksmith back in Takov will repair all of your more armor metallic-like items. And the sharpening wheels are for repairing your own weapons. You can also buy kits from the vendors as well for the different categories of items that need to be repaired. And also, if you buy soap or find soap on the little road towards the butcher's house, you'll pass a little kind of pond area where if you look down in the water off of the dock, you can not only wash your face, but also wash your clothes. You do need soap though. Another way you can acquire armor in Troskovitz is by knocking out or even killing a guard. You can also sneak into the town hall building and lockpick the guards' chests while they're sleeping. One potential problem with this though is if you wear this armor in town, the guards will recognize it as stolen goods. So if you're going to do this, do it on your way out. If your lockpicking isn't high enough to attempt to lockpick these chests, you can also pickpocket or rob a guard while they're sleeping and then try to grab the key in their pocket, which will be a mystery slot here. So it's not going to be easy, especially if you don't really know how to do pickpocketing yet. But now you have done it. You should have armor, or at least some armor, a weapon. You know how to get some groschen when needed. You have your own room and bed in Takov. You should have a hunter's belt and pouch, a horse named Pebbles, unless you're crazy and saved up 1,000 groschen and bought a different horse. And you should have a decent amount of savior schnapps in your inventory, allowing you to save the game at your own choosing. It's at this point that I think you should feel comfortable starting to actually work on quests and also be willing to travel a bit further away from Troskovitz. I'm going to leave you with 2 quest starter tips though before I end the video. The combat training quest that you picked up from Bara, I recommend doing this one next. This will get you started training with an NPC named Tomcat, and he offers a practice arena for combat training of all weapon types. Spend as much time as you can with Tomcat and progress that quest all the way to the end as early as you can. The more that you train in combat, the more that your combat skills and weapon skills and stats and everything will go up, and you'll have noticeable improvements. I also recommend going to see the Miller as soon as possible, which should be Objective C on your main quest of Wedding Crashers. You're not going to him for the main quest though, even though talking to him will progress it a little bit further. You're going here because on his property he offers you a chest to practice lockpicking with lockpicks that won't break. One of his sons, I believe, lets you practice pickpocketing on him. And this is also a great place to start getting some unarmed fighting training, as there is a little arena here on the Miller's property. Doing training early on in those 3 skills, especially lockpicking, will be a huge help for the start of your journey. Lockpicking gets so much easier when you gain a few levels. This is completely up to you though, like everything else in this video. Sometimes it's a ton of fun in games to not have the greatest start with different skills, as your struggles can lead to some pretty funny outcomes. For those of you guys that want to get Mutt, also, a lot of you guys will probably want to do the Mutt quest. You can do this one early on as well, but I would recommend doing combat training first, this quest can actually be quite long and take you pretty far into the map. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helps you get started with KCD2 a bit more confidently. I should have more guides available for you already right now on the channel, as well as a Let's Play series and live streams right here and on Twitch.